Hello, 605 Speaks peeps. I have returned. I'm going to be talking to somebody from a whole new area that I haven't talked to in this year's sessions or in my 2020 sessions. We're going to be heading south of where I live, going down to the Yankton area. So I'm sure I'll have lots of questions about the adventures of Lewis and Clark, because I'm sure if you're from Yankton, you know all of that from start to finish, the whole story of Lewis and Clark, all the details. I'm sure that my guest and visitor today is really excited to hear that that's going to be what she's going to get quizzed on. I am excited to bring on to my screen today Jerry. Hello.
Hello. Thanks
Did
for
you
having me here.
Yeah, did you study up on your social studies of Lewis and Clark?
I remember 8th grade history when we talked about Lewis and Clark, and that's about as far as I can go.
Yeah, mostly I know I just like to camp in the Yankton area and camp at the Lewis at the campground with that name. Otherwise, as an adult, I have not spent a lot of time in the Yankton area. I was, that's somewhere that my folks really like to go camping and fishing when I was little, and I know my dad still does. But for
I
me, I just haven't been down there as much, even though I knew people that lived down there. And then it was kind of one of those things in that way where I would see them when they would come up here, and I was a bad friend and didn't go down and participate in Yankton activities. So how long have you lived in that area?
So I was born in Yankton, and we were here for quite a while. We left Yankton in the early 2000s because I was in grad school and working in a different area, and my husband got a job in Sioux Falls, and so we moved to Alcester, and our kids finished high school in Alcester. And then when we got an opportunity to come back to Yankton, we came back because we met in high school. We grew up here. I love Yankton. I'm a city commissioner in Yankton also.
Oh, well, there we go.
Yep.
So you wear a lot of hats.
I
We
have a
talked
lot
a
of
little
hats.
bit before we started recording. Do you want to kind of, first of all, what hat do you wear that is not what you would consider a job? What is a hat that you wear that is something personal for you that is unique to you on a social or creative level?
Oh, huh. Uh, well, I'm the chaplain for the police department and the fire department, and that is a hat that is that comes off and on, like in the moment's notice. And in that role, depending on which department I'm working with and what's going on, it's an opportunity to give support to the first responders or advocate for victims. And that has been such a joy. I've been doing that for about 4 or 5 years now. And kind of got a taste of it because I did some training as a mental health provider. I did some training to learn how to do critical incident stress debriefing.
Oh, okay.
And we, whenever there's a really big event that happens, we will give the first responders an opportunity to process it so that, to try to reduce the impact of trauma.
Right.
And so,
Which in the Midwest, that could be anything. Well, and from down in your area with the river, that could be a drowning incident. That could be a farm accident. That could be a large fire. That could be, I mean, I know people think of critical incident debriefing as things like large shooting incidents and things like that. But when you come from it pretty much anywhere in South Dakota, a lot of towns, even towns around the larger areas, you're very likely as a first responder to potentially know someone you're responding to.
it's really true.
Right. Or be connected in a deeper way. It's you may, even if you don't know anyone that's a victim, you
Mhm.
know, you're going to know the people of that area, or you're going to know someone affected by it. And so,
Yeah.
So some things, it's very easy for something to be a critical mass event just because of those ripples through the community.
Mm-hmm. And even, we've had some really bad car crashes in this area, and we've had some structure fires with fatalities. And
Right.
and the first responders that we have in Yankton County, I'm just gonna say, are the best, just the best. And so many of them are volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about search and rescue and the fire
Yep.
department, and so yeah, we're pretty blessed here in Yankton.
What is something of the Yankton area that you think other South Dakota locals are not aware of, as far as things that we could be making a daycation out of, that we could be just driving down for the day and enjoying the area and things like that? It's kind of funny. I often think everybody's home is someone else's destination. Like, there are people that come here to vacation. Where could somebody that's right in the region of Yankton, what are we overlooking as things that could entice us to your area?
There are so many things. My first thought is obviously the lake and the river. I'm just I live just about a block away from the banks of the Missouri River, and it's beautiful here. We have the Meade Cultural Center, which is a really big deal museum that they're up and running now, and it's beautiful. It's in one of the old buildings from the old Human Services Center. We have the Huther Aquatic Center, which is a huge park with the pool. We have golf. We have the NFAA, the field archery place. We have I'm going to miss things. We have a really beautiful park system, and right now, as we speak, we're doing a huge renovation project on one of our parks, West Side Park, which is one of the oldest parks in Yankton. It's got a duck pond, and we got this gift from the sisters and from Dr. McVeigh, where they're going to put in a kind of a spot, a meditative spot, and a place. My brain, I'm just coming off of COVID, so my brain is kind of stuck. But there's going to be this little meditation area and a I can't think of the name of it, but
Is it a labyrinth?
Thank you. That's what it is.
Yes, because I know in other places where that's a common fixture added to a lot of other places that the sisters have put together for meditation. I know on the different Avera campuses, most of them, somewhere on the campus, even if it's just a small one, they'll have a labyrinth.
This is totally new to me. I'm
Yes.
so excited. It's not going to be done until we won't be able to enjoy it until next summer, but it's really beautiful, and I'm excited to drive by and see the progress that they've done on that. And we have Mount Marty University. We have a football team and a baseball team and a softball and volleyball. There are so many good things happening in Yankton. We've got the cutest downtown. When I was a kid, downtown was very busy and active. And then during the mall era, when everything moved out of downtowns and it was pretty desolate, we've got a group of folks, retailers, cute little shops and bars, and we've got a couple burger places and coffee shops. Yankton is just, we have so many wonderful things to offer here. Even, we've got a humane society. If you want to go and snuggle with kittens in an afternoon, they love it when we can come or help walk dogs and stuff. We've just got a lot of really good things going on in Yankton.
What's for the younger generations, like how many high schools do you have? What's the size of like the school districts?
So that's a good question. I don't have a number for that, but we have 4 grade schools, a middle school and a high school, and then we also have a Catholic school. We have Missouri Valley Christian Academy, which is a pretty small school, but it's also got kids in there. And I know that there is a homeschooling collaboration in Yankton too.
So that's even if 2 of them are private and or small, but to have 3 high school options for an area of that size, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, actually, we don't have 3 high school options. We just got 1 high school. Maybe the Catholic school only goes up to 8th grade.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And then everybody comes together again for the high school age.
Right. Yep.
How about, what are the demographics like there? And is Yankton a community of mostly older people, middle-aged people, younger people? What's the age of the town of Yankton, the people living in it? Is it a growing town or a shrinking town or a town that's staying the same?
It is definitely not staying the same, and it's not shrinking. The growth has been a challenge in regards to, we are struggling to keep up with housing needs. And that's a real thing. We have, I think, the base of income earners is primarily like manufacturing.
Okay.
And it has been so hard to get people to come and work because we don't have a lot of places for people to live.
Okay.
And if you would come and drive around, you would see there are developments popping up and there are apartment complexes coming up, but that's a problem. We've got a housing problem in Yankton.
So that balance of having the places for them to live ready when you need them to come and work, it hasn't quite caught up to each other yet.
Correct. Yeah. And I think for as long as I can remember, that's been a deal. I mentioned before that I'm on the city commission. I was on the city commission from 1994 to 2000 also. And it was problematic back then too, just to be able to find places for people to live. But it's weird because, we walk our dogs around the neighborhood. And one afternoon we were walking and we were just counting the houses that we could see that we knew that were empty for whatever reason. And we were talking about, I wish there would be a way where we could connect families or people who need a place to stay with these empty houses, figure out a way to get that coordinated. And I don't know how you can do that, but I wish we could, because that's a need.
Right. Because we see that in Sioux Falls too. We see growth and things getting built, but we also see a lot of things standing empty. And it's a question of affordability and accessibility. And also, when you have new people coming into an area and you talk about like transportation needs and things like that, sometimes the places to live are nowhere near where they're going to work.
Yeah.
And I know, I know that there's like discussions in Sioux Falls right now about, are we ready for like a park and ride facility where people that are living in one part of town can go and park and meet and then come in and get to their employment areas. I know that they're talking about wanting to see if we're ready for future development of that. And
that's cool.
Yeah. And I could see a lot of towns in South Dakota could actually embrace the rural around them, the communities around them, by doing things like that. And
yeah, I really like that idea.
Getting things together.
Tell me, what's your cat's name?
That kitty was Black Kitty.
Okay.
And then I have 2 striped cats, and one is number 2 and the other is number 3. There used to be a striped cat named number 1, but she moved to a neighboring farm.
Okay.
So yeah, our cats, they were farm cats that we didn't expect to ever become house cats. We didn't even know for sure. They came to me from my grandma's farm. We didn't even know for sure if they were going to survive. So we just called them by their identifiers, thinking they would grow up and go off and do their own things. And 3 of them decided, no, our own thing is to live in your house.
Oh, I love that.
Yes. And by then, so the first time I took number 3 to the vet and I had to say what her name was, the vet tech looked at me very seriously, because we originally, like, their long name is Stripe number 3 because they're striped cats. And they're like, is your cat a secret agent? Like, that sounds like a secret agent name. And I'm like, yes, it is. So, but yes.
Cool.
What about as far as demographics, especially if you are a town that's got some growth and room for growth? What do you see for different, what's the diversity, different ethnicities, different languages? What's the mix of people that are calling Yankton home?
We are not terribly diverse, and I wish that were different, because I think that would make us so much richer. We do have a Hispanic population. We have some people of color that I think have been located here from different
that have just immigrated to the area over time.
Yeah. But it's pretty heavily white. Yeah.
And of course, the town of Yankton, the Yankton tribal area, how much of that actually overlaps with the city of Yankton?
I don't think it does at all.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Just shares the name.
Yep. Yankton took that name. The Yankton Sioux tribe, I think they're more like in, I'm not even going to speak to that because I don't know.
Right.
Yep.
So that's a good indicator right there, if it's not a part of your daily cultural identity for where you are. So
right. Yep.
But most of South Dakota, all things here share names with our tribal connections for the area when things developed and changed.
Yep.
What is something that when you look at how South Dakota promotes our state as tourism and inviting people from other areas here, what is something that they're missing about Yankton? Like I always joke about, everybody just thinks about Mount Rushmore and the Corn Palace. In the east, we have the Corn Palace. In the west, we have Mount Rushmore. What is something that you think, if the state really wanted to, they could spotlight Yankton and get a national draw?
Boy, Jenny, you ask questions that are hard.
Well, you're supposed to say Ben's Brewery.
Well, that goes without saying. Yes. Ben is my neighbor, and boy, are we lucky to have him in Yankton, for sure.
He's a goer as far as entrepreneurship. He's a goer.
Yes, he is. And he's brilliant, and he's so young, and he's done so many things, Yeah. And he is such a good daddy. He and Brooke have 2 little girls, and
considering how, like, for the last more than a year, he's had to live most of his life hostage to the movie Frozen.
Yes.
That he's still able to function as an adult. That maybe, if not statewide focus, he should at least get some kind of community award.
I know. And every so often I'll look out the window and the girls they'll be going for a little walk around the block. If they were coming, it'd be fun to show you them. Anyway, Ben's, and he's got the brew station that's a little more centrally located, and that's been really fun to watch him develop that.
like I'm of course aware of Riverboat Days. Am I
Mhm.
right? It's called Riverboat Days.
Yep.
And what kind of an event is that?
So that's a really big deal in Yankton. They work on that all year long, and that is a festival with all kinds of food trucks, booths where they sell art and craft things, and music groups. And we've got a couple of dance studios in town, and they have performances. Uh, you know, like a couple of 100,000 people come to Yankton during that time. And that it's pretty remarkable, really. There's a parade on Saturday mornings, and we always get lots of regional politicians that'll come and walk through. And um but we haven't talked about the Meridian Bridge. Are you familiar with that?
I'm familiar, but again, it's something I haven't been to in a long time.
So I'm terrible with dates, but I think it was constructed in 1934. It was sometime in the 30s or early 40s, I can't remember. Oh, I should know this because we've got an anniversary coming up. But anyway,
Isn't
um,
that one of the projects that was to develop to help bring us out of the depression?
yeah, I think
That
so.
that was during that era.
Maybe, maybe. And when it was built, it was a toll bridge, and it was built with these counterweights, so it could come up and boats could go underneath it.
Mhm.
And eventually, I don't know when that stopped, but eventually that stopped. But that was our connection to Nebraska
Mhm.
for ever and ever. And when I was a kid, we'd drive across it and come up over the top, and it's quite narrow, and it's got a little bit of a curve to it. But when they um created the new bridge, the Discovery Bridge, that is a little more lined up with Highway 81, we were left to decide, what do we do with this bridge?
Right.
And so we were able to shift it into a walking bridge, and that's at the end of Walnut Street. Uh, and it is so fun to be able to walk across the bridge, and because you can do the upper and the lower deck, and to see families and people walking dogs. And at the end of the bridge on the South Dakota side, we have a splash pad, and we've got a little fountain and stuff. And I think that's one of the prettiest parts of downtown Yankton. And it connects to a bunch of restaurants and shops and stuff. And that's a really, I mean, it's not Mount Rushmore, but it's a
No,
really fun thing for families to do. And whenever somebody comes to town, I try to point them to do it, because it's a neat experience to walk across the river.
it's always nice to have things like that where you can get both a scenic and an urban experience, and also to have anything that's free.
Yeah, right. Mhm.
Go do this, and it's going to be an experience, and your kids of a certain age are going to be like, wow, this is a big deal. Cars drove on this bridge and now I'm walking on it. Like I
Yep.
remember there's quite a up to even middle school age where things like that are still pretty wow.
Yep.
um
Yep.
yeah,
And like the 4th of July, or during Riverboat Days, they'll shoot fireworks off the top of it, and it's really cool to see. It's a
see it
neat.
over the water.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is something that when other South Dakotans describe the Yankton area, that we're getting wrong?
The first thing I think of is that, when I was a kid, um and even now, if I'm somewhere and I'll say I'm from Yankton, they always make reference to, we have a state psychiatric hospital.
Hmm.
And uh I have a lot of pride in that hospital. I'm really thankful that we have that on this side of the state. When I was just finishing up my bachelor's degree, I worked out there for about a year, And it was a wonderful experience for me. I learned so much.
Mhm.
And when I think about my own family history, um, all of my grandparents worked out there at one time or another. Both of my parents, my brother. Right now, our older son is a security guard out there, and I think South Dakota is really fortunate to have that kind of a facility here, where people who have terrible mental illness can go and get good, high quality care and be safe.
I think we're definitely learning. I mean, for one thing, we've come out of the dark ages of the idea of the insane asylum,
Right.
the classic gothic scary story ideology.
Right.
So first of all, I think we've come beyond that as a general public, but also I think in the last few years, and particularly what we've all gone through with the pandemic, is being more understanding and open of that mental health care is just nobody would consider it a stigma or even a curiosity if you say, well, we have a heart hospital that specializes in cardiac care, like, because we all automatically go, that's important. We all have a heart and we should be able to take care of it. Well, we all have a mind and that we should be able to take care of it. And I think that we're coming out of that stigma and we're seeing the value of places that specialize
Yeah,
in
and
that
that's
kind
such
of
a good
care.
point. I appreciate you bringing that up because, yeah, we have a heart hospital and it's really important to have it, and
Right.
it's we should be really grateful that we have a mental health facility that can take
Right.
care of
And
people.
it's become more and more with the large, I mean, South Dakota, especially on the eastern side of the state, we've become a national focal center for specialized healthcare. And not only does no one think it's odd if you have a specialty facility, they think that, well, that's great. You're champions for that need. If we have a breast cancer center, you're champions for that need. And
Mhm.
all the patients going in there come together knowing the people here understand my special need. And the other patients here, I don't have to feel like I'm alone in this. These people are together with me in this. And I think that, we champion that in other sections of healthcare. It's time to embrace and champion that more openly in the mental health field. I know here in Sioux Falls there's development and growth with the behavioral health center and the Hemsley Foundation coming and adding to that, and adding an adolescence center and being like, you know what, we're gonna stop telling you to just suck it up. We're gonna give you somewhere that focuses
Yeah.
on that mental health, because yeah, we all we all have the same organs and our mind is one of them.
Mhm.
So, and
Yep.
that one's, as my limited healthcare knowledge, but I'm pretty sure that's the organ that's driving the rest of them. so
Yep.
so yeah, I hope to see that continue, that there's less of a stigma and more of a pride in that we offer those specialized services and care.
And
So
being a mental health provider, I can tell you that I am really busy. Work is really
mhm.
busy, and all of my colleagues are very, very busy. So, and I'm glad for that, and
Right.
I wish that we could. I wish we had enough people that we could cover everything all the time, and some people do have to wait, and I feel bad about that. But, um,
I just was talking with, I did one of these with a couple from Rapid City, and it was after we were done recording, we were just chatting and we were talking about first responders and things like that, and employers that provide EAP. And I said, having EAP or having more employers that offer it, we should have more employers that require you use it. Like,
mhm.
whether you think you need it or not, everybody should EAP once a month. Like, you
Yeah,
should go to group
yeah,
once a month.
it's
And
true.
maybe if we had some kind of sessions like that, there would be less reaching critical phases. Or even if you feel like you're somebody that you're like, I feel like I'm well adjusted, you should still be there and know where your coworkers are at in their balance and their life. And maybe you can reach out and say, hey, I see you're struggling with this. this is how I deal with that. And that's why I feel well adjusted. Can I help you?
Hmm.
And help provide those resources instead of it all falling on the shoulders of the limited amount of mental health professionals we have.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's true.
Yes. What about well, in talking about that you work with law enforcement
Hmm.
and first responders. So I'm assuming you're a big enough city, though your fire department is probably not a volunteer. It's probably a city run. Is that correct?
Nope, it's volunteer. We've
Oh,
got
really?
2 paid employees, but other than that, they're all volunteers, and they are a fun bunch of people.
So how large of an area do your volunteers have to cover? How many volunteers do you have? I feel like in my mind, Yankton is a big enough place that you would need full-time fire staff.
Yeah, we don't. We don't have it. But we do have a lot of wonderful employers that let their people go and take care of fires when it
Right,
happens. We
right.
have 45, I believe 45 volunteers.
Oh, so that's a
Mhm.
pretty good sized crew.
And, the thing is, right now, we've had a lot of retirement. So we've got a pretty young fire department. We've got a pretty young police department too. And that's been really fun to watch as these folks train and develop their new, kind of teamwork skills and stuff. So yeah, we have, and in terms of what kind of an area do we cover, we have obviously all of the county, and sometimes we'll get pulled in for like mutual aid stuff if
Right,
something's going on between here and Vermilion or
right.
um,
And
up
like
up
you
in,
said, there have been in the last couple summers on I-29 in that area, there have been some big crashes, big multi-car events and things like that. And we've had huge windstorms that caused a lot of damage and blizzards down in that area. And it's like for a little while there, I-29 from Beersford basically to the state border, it was kind of like it could go any direction every day. So
yeah, it's true.
yeah. And then and you're whether you're a full-time professional law enforcement or a volunteer, it's not any easier to walk up on a body.
No, it is not.
Yeah.
We had a bad car crash. I can't remember. I think it was 3 years ago on July 4th. And there were 5 fatalities in that one crash. And one little girl lost her mom and sister and stepdad. And that was rough. That was rough
Right.
on the community. It was really, I had a lot of worries about police and fire because they had to deal with such unimaginable trauma.
Right.
But I know everybody that has had to do with that, and we got on that right away quickly. And for something as tragic as that, I think it kind of opened up a new opportunity to connect as community members.
Right.
And it was a terrible thing, but it gave us all a chance to have a new conversation. And I
Right.
think there was greater emotional intimacy because of it. And as sad and terrible as that was, some good things have come from it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And that's another part of our growth in understanding we're still very Midwest. We're very prairie. We're going to pull up by our bootstraps and we're going to get up tomorrow and do the thing and
Mhm.
keep going. But that being more open and understanding that yeah, when we do get to step away from things, it's okay to talk some things out,
Yeah.
or it's even okay sometimes to some people do need to center in and get quiet, and it's okay to let them have that space, but make sure they know they're not alone.
Mhm. Yep.
I know I've been a big promoter of telling ever since now, I think it's been 2 years now since they developed the rural hotline specifically for mental health for people in the farm industry to be able to reach out and to have access, and there's some financial resources to help them, because when you're your own boss and a hailstorm can take away your year's income, you never know what your health insurance doesn't cover.
Right.
If you have insurance, it doesn't necessarily cover well enough for mental health. And I know the rural hotline for dealing with mental health stress, I've been a big promoter of that and telling people, if you know a farmer, put this number on their fridge, even if they don't think they need it now. You don't know when the day is you're going to wake up and need it.
Yeah.
You know.
100%. Yep.
So,
absolutely.
what's something that you think is on the horizon for Yankton that's a big positive? Is there something that is either already exists and it's going to just keep being a positive force and growing, or is there something new and upcoming? Something that maybe the people of Yankton don't even realize they're sitting on the cusp of something great. Especially when you look at like the younger, is Yankton a town where the kids grow up and leave, or that they grow up and come back to?
I think some go away and don't come back, but a lot of them do come back. When I think about who I graduated from high school with, I run into classmates all the time. You talk about South Dakota has a brain drain, and I think that is true in some ways, but we do have a lot of families, and when I think about the good things that are coming, I just think about, we've got a great school system. We've got a lot of kids. You cannot swing a dead cat and not hit a church. We've got all kinds of, we've got a lot of traditional liturgical kinds of churches. We've got 2 Catholic churches, but we also have a ton of like independent, non-denominational churches too. And I think that adds a different kind of a flavor, with all of those different things going on. We have Yankton Area Arts has summer concert series. And so we have every Tuesday night, there's a band concert down in the amphitheater. We also have, I think it's on Thursday nights, where there'll be like local talent and, more like bar bands and stuff that'll be down by the park, by the bridge. We have a farmer's market on Saturday mornings, and we've got the Playhouse and the Dakota Theater, and I just think we've got, well, actually, the last time I got my eyes checked, I have a new eye doctor, Dr. Alex Neeland, cute as a button. She looks like she's about 12, and she is not from Yankton, but she graduated from Mount Marty, and she stayed, and she opened up her own place here.
That's good to hear. I mean, that you have a town that, obviously, I like to support women in business. I support everyone in business, but I get all excited when women excel in their own thing. To know that your town is conducive to that it's welcoming enough and also provides the opportunity, because it's not easy to get any kind of medical facility off the ground. Your equipment and your costs and your overhead are crazy. Yep. So that alone is kind of alluring, that your town offers that opportunity, as well as a base of patients, a client base.
We have a lot of women. We have a lot of professional women in Yankton. When I think about my dentist, Dr. Scott, my gynecologist, Dr. Sternquist, we have one of the premier oncologists, Dr. Mary Lee Villanueva, is here. And so her husband,
top to bottom, you can get all your lady business handled.
Yep. And they're all just so professional and really kind. and empathetic women. We are really lucky. Yeah. In Yankton.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. What is something that you find that in 10 years, 20 years, something that you know will stay the same and you're okay with that? We're all always striving for change and growth and development, but sometimes it's nice to have something that will stay the same, a constant touchstone. What is something that you feel like as a Yankton resident you can count on?
The first thing I think of is the sisters up at the monastery. This is uh, a community of women that have taken care of us and prayed for us for almost as long as Yankton has existed. There was a different order there um, that and that was asked to leave, and the Benedictines came from Switzerland, I think in the late 1800s. And when I think about the service that they provide and the ways that the things that they do and they care for us, I think we are so lucky to have those nuns. The monastery is just a few blocks away, and it sits up on a hill. And in the mornings when I'm getting ready for work, I can hear their call to prayer every morning at it's like 5 to 7, and the bell rings, and I can hear that. And there's something so stabilizing, foundational to me. I'm not Catholic,
Right.
but I have worked with one of the sisters in particular, is a spiritual director to me, and they are very well educated, very sophisticated, and it's fascinating to me how you can pull all of these women and they can live together in community and not kill each other. I mean,
Yeah.
when I think about just, I don't know how you do that. I'm not really sure, but I think it's remarkable.
Yeah. To be to see people who have devoted their life to their faith is I am also not Catholic. I have a different faith path,
Mhm.
but to see anybody, whatever their faith path is, as long as it's one of a good heart and do kindness, it is remarkable to see people that a lifetime of devotion
Right?
to their faith path. And yeah. First, when you said they're called to prayer, I can hear it. And then I thought, I visualized a bunch of nuns going, it's time, come on, ladies. And like you could hear them all. And I'm like, well, then they must not have taken their vow of silence. Because, but then I realized, oh, she means the bells.
Yeah, the bells. Bells. Would you feel comfortable talking about your spiritual journey? I'm curious.
From over my lifetime, I actually come from a family where like my biological dad's family was Catholic, but
Okay.
I was never raised in the Catholic faith, but with I would say Catholic adjacent, like I was aware of it and experienced it.
Mhm.
um I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness.
Okay.
So, and I think that that's probably what gave me my ability to just up and talk to a stranger,
Yeah,
because
right. Uh-huh.
that's what you do every Saturday.
Yep.
Um, and it's definitely one thing to be willing to be up and talk to a stranger. It's another to say, I'm coming to the stranger's house. I'm going to talk to them. And then definitely embraced and studied a lot of different theologies in my adulthood. And now I consider myself I always just tell people, well, the best word for it is to say I'm a pagan, is to say
Okay.
I'm my I my belief in the Christian God is as strong as it has been since my childhood. I believe in the Christian God. I believe in Allah. Um, I believe in the presence of God within ourselves and within our earth. And I think that is something that at its core, almost every religion tries to teach,
Mhm.
and at whatever flashcards they use to teach it. So I would have to say, yeah, my personal faith is mostly in myself. Like
Sure.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to do and be responsible for, and you know, I just reached a point where I felt like a lot of the tenets of different Christian religions, not necessarily faiths, but religions, always discuss the idea of what happens when you die. Whatever you're doing now, remember it's going to affect you when you die. And I'm like, I kind of want to be caring about what I do now because it's what I'm doing now.
Right. Right.
And if it also holds well for me in the great beyond, that's wonderful. But what I'm doing now, um, it makes you feel a lot more responsible, and also it's very freeing. I can be pretty wild and crazy because I'm not really concerned. I've learned that not only am I not really concerned, but I don't believe there's any secondary gods that are really concerned if I get too wild and crazy, as long as I'm doing right by the people of the planet. So
Yeah. Yeah. I just finished a systematic theology class about a month ago, and it's given me a lot of well, I had to read about 12 books, so that was one thing. And it given me a chance to really think about, what do I believe in? And I stand behind you when I say, I I don't really know what happens, in the next place
right,
after this, but what's the most important thing is that we treat each other, we think about how we can be kind and loving to each other,
right.
and how justice is important, and equity, and
Hmm.
generosity and kindness.
And I grew up with my step grandma was a very spiritual and faithful Christian woman, and um when I look at her, if all people of the Christian faith lived their life and practiced the way she did, it was not in your face, but yet it wasn't hidden. It was not something that she pushed on anyone else, yet the way she lived and worked, you would feel welcomed if she invited you to join her. I know at the end of her life, she had had a stroke and she couldn't speak and she was in the hospital, and everybody works so hard to make conversation. None of us are comfortable just sitting in the quiet. And I asked her if it was all right if I read to her, and we read the Psalms. I just read the Psalms out loud.
Mhm.
And to watch her acknowledge and grow calm in that, and it's like that's that is who she was and how she lived. And she could have told me her God was a box of baking soda in the refrigerator. And I would have said, if that is what your God requires of you, then that is a good God because you are a good person. And that's, I think, the thing is the she had a deep and abiding faith in God, but she didn't expect God to do anything for her. She was also a child of the Depression, an orphan at a young age, a farm wife with young children. She lost a son in a very tragic way, um, farmed from the 30s until the 2000s when she passed away. And she knew that she could go to God and talk to God and get guidance from her faith, but that it wasn't going to mean shit if she didn't put her boots on and go out and hoe a row, so
Yeah,
that's,
right.
you know and she was a nurse, and she was probably the greatest nurse to ever walk the earth, and her abilities in that were very, you know just watching that is would sell you on religion if you never knew what religion was. And you think about when you talk about like missionaries coming, especially the history of missionaries coming here to South Dakota and the horrors that then they
Mhm. Right.
put upon the native people of our area.
Mhm.
She would never have been that. She would never have brought her faith to anyone in that way. She would have come and said, how can I help you take care of your children? How can I help you grow a crop? How can I, oh, and by the way, on Sundays, when I take this time and pray, do you want to join me? You know,
Mhm.
that's,
Boy, she sounds like a gem.
oh, she was absolutely. Both of my grandmas, their faith was their own, and they didn't force it upon anybody. But when you watched how they lived as people, you're like, I really want to be like that lady. And I'll
Mhm.
never be enough to catch up to them. Never.
Yeah.
Not in 100 lifetimes.
What an amazing legacy you have.
Well, and I've always been really glad that just through fate or whatnot, my daughter got to know her great grandparents. She still has one living great grandmother that's in perfect health and running her farm over in Minnesota. And she grew up knowing my grandparents, her dad's grandmother, into adulthood. Like, it's not just like a vague memory of great grandma that passed away when I was 2. Like, one of her great grandmas was at her high school graduation, you know,
Wow.
and
Hmm.
being there with her great grandparents she has active memories of being part of their life and them being part of hers, and as well as all of her grandparents. And she has great aunts and great uncles that are just another aunt and uncle because they're just, for whatever reason, the age and the timing of everything,
Hmm.
she's grown up knowing all of them. And that's profound for her to experience. Everybody teaches something different with their life experience.
Yeah, that's
You know?
amazing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I hope that that's, I wish that was something we saw more of in our state. I think especially even when we talk about mental health, I think the fact that we've grown up and become a scatter
Mhm.
instead of closing back in together, I think that separation is a sadness. I think that we would not struggle so much if we had more of the younger generations in kind with the older generations. And
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Both my grandmas were gone by the time I was 10, so I feel um I have lots of stories that people have told me, but I do feel like that was something that I missed out on.
right, right. Well, and it's different for her to be able to have, it's one thing to tell a story of someone you knew, but to know that they all had stories of her,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And that's one of my favorite stories is my my grandma and I, my daughter's had a cell phone since she was 5 years old. My grandma and I were out to lunch somewhere and her phone goes off and she goes, oh, I got a text message from your daughter, from my kiddo. And I'm like, oh, really? And she's like, yeah, she'll have to show it to me when she comes over. And then she puts the phone down. And I said, what? And she said, oh, yeah, she texts me all the time, pictures of things she's doing at school and stuff like that. But I don't know how to open them. So then when she comes over, she opens them and we talk about it. And I didn't even know
Oh,
they were doing this.
oh, that's so sweet.
But I thought it was hilarious that she was like, oh, yes, a text message. I'll have her show it to me, this weekend or something. So, yeah, like those kind of things that we don't have an intergenerational society like we should.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. We are so separated from each other. That's true.
And
Yeah.
I think that's something we're seeing in nursing home facilities closing, and where is grandma going? And it's like, why can't grandma go home with someone? Or I honestly think the solution to our nursing care problem or nursing home problem in South Dakota is that if you have a family in residence at one, you should volunteer at the nursing home that they live in, or get a part-time job in the kitchen, or doing, any of us can be general caregivers so that it's not so stressful for the nurses. I feel like we definitely need skilled facilities. There comes a time where sometimes you can't care for people in their home.
Mhm.
I know the year that my grandfather was in nursing home care, he had dementia and he was a big man, and there's no way we were going to be able to help him with hygiene and cares and things like that. But
Right.
I went every other day to visit him for that year, and my grandma and my aunt went on the alternate days.
Mm.
And we had dinner with him and we helped to get him ready for bed and all those things, because that's your job, because it's your job.
Right.
But if more people did that and we took some of the stress off, maybe we could keep some of those places open. Burnout is very high in human care.
Yeah. When I was a little girl, my mom was an activity coordinator in at Sister James Nursing Home, and so I grew up, reading to people and bringing snacks and taking people from bingo and stuff like that.
So
And
you had lots of grandparents
that's true. Yep,
in
that's
that way.
absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I I think, if I'm honest, my favorite population to work with in my work in mental health is with the elderly and with the chronically ill and those who are dying. That's my favorite group to work with because they've had so many life experiences.
Right. They can tell
No,
you how it was, when it was, and what happened next.
and there's never any short. Um, there's always something to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you giving me an hour of your time today and telling me about Yankton.
Yeah.
I will have to come down and walk the bridge as a grown up. We'll see. Speaking of being geriatric.
Well, if you do, be sure and call so then we can meet at the brew station and have a pint.
Yes, I see all of the things that the brewery has for entertainment and stuff like that. And I think, oh, that's so cool. And not that we don't have a lot of stuff like that here in Sioux Falls, but also there's just an added twist when in a smaller town, you have to work that much harder to
Yeah.
get a variety of entertainment and things like that.
And I'll just put in a little plug. My husband and I have a little band together. We call ourselves Jerry Squared. And because his name is Jerry, I don't know if you knew that.
I think I did.
So he's an amazing musician. I'm just there for the fun. But we're going to play at the brew station. I think it's August 5th. So if you want to pop on down.
Very Squared. That's great.
Yeah. We just play stuff that you can sing along to. So 70s, 80s, 90s. And it'll be really fun.
I'm so tone deaf and all my friends are musicians and I'm like, can I just hit a drum? And they're like, no. And then I'll be like, can I sing in the chorus? No, you go over there. You just wave your arms the wrong direction at the wrong time and do your thing. And I'm just like, fine.
That's funny.
Yeah. They're they're very clear about what my role in the friend group is.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, I thank you, Jerry. I'm going to sign off.
Okay.
Goodbye to your pets.
Thank you. It's really nice to meet you.
Yes, it's nice to face with you.
Yeah.
Oh, now I have a new project before summer's over to go. I can easily jaunt down to Yankton and walk across the bridge. That is something I think that this project has been eye-opening to me, with the idea of how easy it would be to just go on a day trip and not have to make a big plan. Leave in the morning, go have a good afternoon, be home and back in your own bed by the end of the day. I think that that's something I need to do more of, is just find those little things where I can just go have a nice lunch, see some shops, walk across the bridge and do something different that I can't do here at home. But yet I'm still in South Dakota, so I'm still really home. So everyone's home is someone else's destination, and I'm gonna find out how many destinations we really have. So anybody that's watching, I'm still looking for those farther away counties and the more rural counties where it's harder to actually pick out and reach people to talk to. Tell them 605speaks.com to volunteer and tell me what their town is like. I can't wait to hear about it. So everybody have a good afternoon.